All right. So, like I said, welcome to the co-op experience. We've got the employer panel discussion. Before we get started today, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Christopher Ledvina. I'm the Cooperative Education Coordinator at Lakeland University. Jess would like to say that I am the glue. I like to share. I like to work with everyone in terms of communicating, things that are going on at Lakeland, how we can, help benefit the different companies, and just make sure that communication is going back and forth, including with that employer newsletter and not just regular communication. So to give us a little bit more background about the cooperative education experience, I'm going to pass it off to Jess, who's going to give us a little bit of background in that sense.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. Good morning, everyone. So glad you guys could join us this morning and learn a little bit more about Lakeland University and what we have to offer and what we do differently, I think, than a lot of colleges and universities in working with our employer partners. I'm so appreciative to be joined by our three panelists, Dennis, Mark, and Kristen. They work so closely with us to really make everything happen. It takes a community effort in order for the dream really to come alive. So for those of you I've not met, again, my name is Jess Lambrecht. I've been with the university now for a little more than 13 years. And 4 years ago, we designed a cooperative education program at the core focus being helping our students get more access to work opportunities, to be able to earn academic credits in those experiences, and also have some more financial income, being able to manage those funds and being more thoughtful about their spending habits and expenses. At Lakeland, we enroll a lot of first-generation students who just really need extra support systems in place in order to ensure that they're going to be successful in the workplace, especially. They come with great academic backgrounds and profiles, but really that workplace environment is a critical component to their entire Lakeland experience. But just our students, even pre-co-op, it was something that was important for us to be able to help them manage workplace issues and challenges, and that's really where we come into play. And again, where I think we really differentiate ourselves in the university populations to be able to better serve our students better. So our traditional campus, and I'll just give a few bullet points because I know many of you already on the call are very familiar with Lakeland, but for those of you who aren't, we are a small liberal arts institution, literally amongst cornfields in the rural parts just outside of Sheboygan. Just a little bit northwest of Howard's Grove. Our main campus, we have about 750 traditional students who reside on our campus. 4 years ago, we also evolved into being more of a year-round institution. We've always been a year-round school and offering online courses in the summer months, but now we've got a major residential focus in the summer as well, keep our students working in a year-round capacity. And then we have an additional 2,500 students in our evening online programs, which is really where we can supplement students' learning environments when they are out in workplaces, if they need to take a course that might be a more flexible modality for them so that they're not necessarily having to be in a physical classroom 3 days a week for an hour and a half at a time. So we were one of the very first schools actually, and I think it was the late 80s, early 90s that developed online learning systems. So we're definitely veterans at that aspect and I think do a pretty phenomenal job in making sure, again, students have the flexibility to be able to balance workplace needs, juggling schedules, family needs, whatever comes their way. Some of our largest academic programs is a typical question I get from employers. I mean, we've got a significant number of students in our business administration program and accounting programs, marketing. Our business area probably composes about 50% of our student population in those areas. Finance, all kinds of different emphases areas that the student can partake in. And then our computer science program, psychology, criminal justice, those are all very strong for us as well. Again, those programs also exist in our online format, so that's why we get a lot of more flexible options for students to be able to partake in that. But these students are, again, are very hungry for work. Just this last year, as we are, again, in our fourth fall of students who are participating in the cooperative education program, we've got a 90% enrollment rate of those who are participating, which basically sends a message to us as an institution that we've got a heightened awareness of students who know that they need work to become more employable. As most of you probably know, anytime you've worked with a college student in the past, or even high school students, right, there's a lot of hopscotch, call it, of students and their employment needs. So they kind of bounce from job to job. They do something for a term, and then they go home, and then they come back again, which can be very disruptive to you as in the employment arena when you're trying to schedule and coordinate growth opportunities or where they can be most effective. So really our focus is helping students be employable in a year-round capacity, such that we provide them transportation to get to and from work. And then there's additional curriculum and coursework that the students participate in that gives them a better foundation to, again, be more successful. They have to do more job shadowing experiences. They actually have to do a budget every semester to reevaluate what are their expenses, what are their earning potential, what do they need to be planning for. They also have to make sure that they've got a developed resume, cover letter. They go through interviews practices. They do all kinds of things that are essentially, we want any 18 to 20-year-old student and even our adult students to be able to have those skills. They're required to do those things because before we put them out into the workplace, we really want to ensure that they've got a good foundation. And then when they actually go into those workplace environments, we have additional curriculum that is another flexible offering of classwork that is all focused on workplace issues. So what do you do when you've got a difficult supervisor? What do you do when you observe an ethical issue in the workplace? What do you do when your coworker isn't, pulling their weight? What do you do, fill in the blank, right? We all have these types of issues in the workplace or various types of them. And so really we've kind of put them in a group environment where they can talk about those things and realizing that when they have a challenging coworker or whatever it might be, that they're not alone in that experience. And it's supported by a full-time faculty or staff member on our campus to really help them manage through that. Because in many situations, mom and dad might not know how to have handled it because most of their parents be or blue collar or hourly type employees. So really, that's where the co-op team comes into play. We also, because of our adult programs, have designed experiences such that our students can earn credit because of work that they're doing in the environment. So if they're a full-time employee and they're going to school part-time, how can a student participate in our cooperative design program efforts? All kinds of options is essentially the message I want to share with you today, that a student can earn credit and be able to work towards their degree completion because of working with you and us and a supportive system. So real briefly, that's just a few bullet points that I'd like to share with you. Again, I invite you to share in some questions or comments that you have in the chat if you do have those things about Lakeland. But really, I want today's focus to be all about our panelists and what they've been doing with us, that you can hear from them about what's working most effectively. Chris, I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, Jess. All right, let's get to the panelists then. Let's start talking. Let's start to hear from each of them. So first off, I would like to introduce our panelist, Kristen Young, who is from Johnsonville. Kristen, can you first start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen Young. I'm Talent Acquisition Manager at Johnsonville. I've been there for about 5 years and have loved our partnership with Lakeland.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And one of the things about Johnsonville that I love with it is that we've had quite a few students, we've had students in different roles who have worked with Johnsonville. Kristen, can you talk a little bit about some of the different positions that co-op students could hold in Johnsonville?
Sure. We're open to having students in a variety of positions. Generally, we have all of our co-ops start in our general production type roles. These positions allow greater flexibility because we are, running 24/7. They're also our highest need areas. And I think it's a great way for students to learn and practice fundamental skills like communication, teamwork, and accountability.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kristen. Tell me, and then, let's talk to Dennis. Dennis, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Dennis Miller, Director of Human Resources for Sheboygan County. I've been here about 9 months. Previously, I worked for Bemis Manufacturing Company and fortunately had the opportunity to get on the ground floor of co-op with Jess and the Lakeland team. It was a very creative opportunity at the time. And In my experience, we've employed, excuse me, accounting, inventory control and logistics, engineering, HR, chemistry. So we've had a variety of co-ops in my experience through Lakeland University. It's been a very good experience. And one of the things I like the most is the flexibility and the responsiveness of the Lakeland team. So they're very creative in working with you to solve your problem or your opportunity that you have relative to co-ops.
Yeah, thanks, Dennis. Yeah, and it's always great to see, when people are changing positions, but they're still, they still find their way to co-op, to help us and to help the students and, build that connection. So I really appreciate that. Mark, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Mark Menninger. I'm a software architect for Horizon Systems. So we're a smaller company that makes insurance software. And as you guessed, since we're a software company, we need lots of engineering students and engineering help to help build our product. So yeah, I started here about 10 months ago, 9-10 months ago or something like that. And I always wanted to get involved with a co-op type experience. And I feel that it's been great. I kind of want to ditto what Dennis said, where you guys have been really responsive and, been able to help us find people that would fit the role that we're trying to fill. And I think it's just been really great to kind of give students that, like, here's a project or here's something in mind that we're trying to accomplish. Go do some research and come back to us with a presentation. And as a group, we'll collaborate and figure out, okay, out of the 3 options you presented us, which one best fits our need for the specific project at hand. So I think that's been really great.
Excellent. Sounds awesome. Well, thank all 3 of you for taking some time today to answer some questions about co-op. I really do appreciate that. Let's jump right in. We've got our first question here. What kinds of roles have co-op students held in your organization? And what kinds of experiences have they gained? So, Kristen, if I could, you kind of talked a little bit about general, a little bit about the general roles that students have held in your position. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, or what kinds of experiences have they gained?
Yeah, sure. So like I said, most students start out in general production. And as they progress in their education and their time at Johnsonville, they're able to take advantage of some additional learning opportunities that we provide. So one is tuition reimbursement. So after 1 year of working at Johnsonville, students are eligible for 80 to 90% tuition reimbursement. They are required to stay 1 year after graduation, right? So that is something to keep in mind. We also offer career development opportunities in the form of job shadows. We have career counselors on staff to help, provide some additional guidance. And sometimes we offer blended roles. So if you're working in production, we're able to provide a few hours a week where they can go to, an area that they're interested in. Maybe it's supply chain, maybe it's accounting, whatever that might be.
Awesome. Dennis?
I think I mentioned the roles, but the experience that I've observed the students walk away with, oftentimes they walk away with a mentor, or at the very least, a contact that's very willing and engaged in their development. So to me, that goes beyond the employment relationship. That's a long-term career benefit, the students experience. And the other thing I think they walk away with is valuable work ethic. Oftentimes, the student, this may be their first employment opportunity, and understanding work dynamics and relationships, and to Kristen's point a minute ago, the ability to communicate effectively are huge experiences that those students walk away with. And it's also nice that they get a paycheck.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that makes a great point, Dennis, that for a lot of these students, I think this might be their first professional experience, outside of maybe a family connection or a local, kind of a smaller position that they might know someone who was able to find them the position. This is an opportunity for them to really step into that workforce. Mark, tell me a little bit then from an IT perspective, when a student comes in, what kinds of experiences are they gaining, in that IT field?
Sure. So yeah, we basically hire them as software developer interns. And I kind of touched a little bit on it, but we definitely give them that team atmosphere. So how do I collaborate with the team, present information that might be technical to non-technical and technical folk? So definitely that kind of collaboration and teamwork is kind of what we're trying to build here, and that's usually a good indication of a well-versed and that's a good software development team, is one that can collaborate. Like even Google has posted things that they're like, it's not the smartest people that we had. Like all of our products that have done really well, it's not that we had super smart people on them. It's always we had people that would collaborate together, help each other and stuff like that. That's usually where they have seen the most success in articles that they've published. So that's what we're trying to do here.
Awesome. Thank you. Next question. Where would you say you are in the process of building a co-op program in your organization? Do you plan to continue developing the way in which co-op has worked its way into your organization? What do you think about that? Mark, if we could start with you, where do you see yourself on in the development?
Yeah, so I think we're definitely past that trial phase, because I'm probably one of the newer people that have tried you guys out from our panelists. So we've tried it out. We're seeing that it's working. So now we're kind of thinking, well, should we find a student that could help out on the business analyst side of things, someone that can help out, in different parts of the company that might need a little bit of support, maybe project management, something like that. So that's probably where we're going to go next.
Awesome. Very cool. How about you, Kristen? Where's Johnsonville in the co-op process?
Well, we've been working with Lakeland for quite a while. So we've had, co-ops for longer than I've been at Johnsonville. So I'd say we're past the trial phase as well. And I don't think we have a plan in place for where exactly we're headed with the program, but we're open to continuing to work with Lakeland as things change in the environment.
Sure, and I'm sure that like you said, you have quite a few students who are in the kind of those co-op type roles. Do you see more opportunities for co-op students in those professional roles of HR and accounting and things like that?
Probably not right now with the pandemic. We're all working remote. Sure. And so I'm not sure that we would be, interested in diving into that this year. But sure, in the future, I think that's always an option. We do offer internships every year in most of our corporate functions. So this would be just like that.
Excellent. How about at Sheboygan County, Dennis, and the HR? What do you think?
I think we are in the learning process. Organizationally, I think there is a different understanding of co-op than what I brought to the table. So I wouldn't say we're not as far along in our journey as Johnsonville. However, I think there's a receptiveness and certainly an interest in growing the program here. And what I'm really confident about is building on success. So we have to have some small wins and build upon that success. Personally, I am interested in building the program here, and I'm actually excited to see how it can grow.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could, Dennis, I would appreciate if you could talk a little bit about the difference between co-op in, at Bemis where you were previously, and in the position, where you've got kind of a private organization or a company versus where you are right now in more of the public sector.
Yeah, in the private sector, the ability to adapt and respond quickly, I believe, is a little easier. The public sector is more deliberate, more process driven. The time frame takes a little bit longer, but I believe once the program's set in place and the managers are on board, I think the program quickly will grow. What I really like I mentioned before, is the flexibility and responsiveness of the Lakeland team. And I think the ability to find a person and expose that person to a variety of opportunities at the county will give them a very good perspective, whether that would apply in public or private settings. So I think co-op in general, the challenge that organizations will face is those definitions. Are we talking about an intern, or are we talking about a co-op? Where I came from, it was an interchangeable term, which I think may have been unfair in certain ways. I look at a co-op being more of a longer, repeat term process, whereas an internship, from my experience, was always a one semester or maybe a one school term program. So I guess I probably answered more than your question, but I think there is a slight difference between the two, and the funding of co-op students within a public sector would be a little different and a little different process than in the private sector.
Right. No, I appreciate the answer, because I think it brings up a good point that, quite a few people might want to know, might have questions about, which is the difference between a co-op and an internship. And I know that Kristen mentioned it as well in her response as well, that they have, Johnsonville has internships, and then we have our co-op positions. And Mark, do you have any thoughts as to the difference between how co-op positions are treated or are compared to internships at Horizon Systems? How do you see
I
it?
guess
Yeah.
from my standpoint, since I basically give both of them, I do have interns as well, and I basically give both of them the same stuff. So to me, they're almost indistinguishable. The co-op, I'm a little bit more engaged with, because they can work a little bit more hours because of the whole way things are set up, that they actually get college credit for it. So that I think helps, especially helped me sell it originally, because when I was first trying to get interns and anything like that, they're like, oh, we'll only be here 10 hours a week or something. What are they going to do in 10 hours? And you're like, if you give someone a project for 10 hours, that's a lot of stuff. Like, they can help do these little things that maybe we don't have time for. And we can see some progress on those. So to me, it's a little indistinguishable. Co-op, I'm definitely going to be, it's a longer term thing, where internships, it's like, okay, if this person doesn't work out, you can kind of swap them in and out. But, I feel that with the co-op, you're kind of helping build this person up as well, which I do with interns anyways. But I don't know if that answers your question.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely. It's just good to hear how different organizations, treat these terms, because I know from my communication with many different organizations, there's confusion, and every company might have a slightly different way of treating it, or at least of understanding the term. So Kristen, I'll go back to you then. If you could tell me, how do you see the difference between co-ops and internships?
Co-op experiences are longer term experiences than our traditional internships typically, and students are getting their education right around the block from us at Johnsonville, so it's really convenient, I think, for both parties. and it allows for the students and for Johnsonville to really build a stronger relationship.
Awesome. Yeah, and that is one of the big things that we always talk about, is the ability to have a person long term, or at least have that ability to really build that employee, in the way that you give them the experiences to help them continue to grow, with your company and as a person. Question. So what do co-op students and the co-op experience provide to your organization that other experiential learning pathways do not, i.e. Internships, perhaps? So we talked about the length, What else, can a co-op student, kind of bring to the table that an intern might not be able to fulfill? Dennis, can we start with you?
Sure. Of course, new perspectives. The student brings an unintelligent approach in some cases to solving a problem, and oftentimes it's that different method of thinking that helps to be creative in solving that problem. So they bring a new perspective. I think in an odd way, they bring the ability for the teacher to become the learner. So in a multi-generational organization, which I think is very common in Sheboygan County, you have the Gen Xers working with the millennials, and that ability for the student to bring a different perspective helps the mentor become the learner in dealing with and working with different generations and their attitudes and beliefs. I think the other thing that the student brings to an employer, though, is a new recruiting source, because we all know that the challenge in Sheboygan County is our low unemployment rate. And so this new recruiting source, I think, adds a value, not just in the short term of a 2 to 4 year co-op, but long term when that employee decides to stay on post education. So those are my perspectives, I guess.
Thank you. Mark, what do you think?
Oh, you kind of took one of mine. They work longer hours usually, so that's nicer that you have them a little bit longer, and you can definitely tell that they're more invested because this is part of their schooling. Like, they're doing it not just for a lot of times, especially when I was in school, we had to have an internship to graduate. And a lot of times, I would see students sort of like, yeah, here's my internship. I just kind of go and I don't really do much. And they didn't feel invested in it. They just kind of did it to kind of check the box. Where I think the way co-op set up is they kind of have to be invested. Otherwise they don't get a good score for their grade on, they're getting graded on the co-op experience, and I'm part of that. So I think that helps.
Yeah, I think that investment is a good, investment is a good way of looking at it. Like you said, the term investment on the student's part and on the employer's part, in a co-op really, stands out, I think, as something that could be a little different between them. What do you think, Kristen?
We bring in a lot of a variety of early talent into our organization every year through co-ops, through Lakeland high school co-ops, interns, youth apprentices, you name it. So we, I would say that students are, they're all bringing kind of a similar excitement and intrigue, and they're seeing something for the first time. So I think sometimes we're able to get, typically we're able to get new perspectives, and we're also Lakeland's bringing diverse candidates to our organization, which I think is also a plus. But I think the biggest thing for me personally is, like I said, we have so many programs, and it can be difficult to manage through all of them. And if you have any issues that do come up, it can affect the future of that program at Johnsonville, right? So I think one of the biggest benefits of the co-op program is you have Jess there to help mentor students. I feel like, Jess is just a great partner. She's someone that I can contact at any point if there is any concerns, and she's able to, talk with students and, help them through it as well. So I think just having that extra support makes me more confident in hiring a co-op student.
Yeah, I'm very happy as well to work and to partner with to Jess and those types of things. I think it's a great plus to have that background. And speaking of, that's actually my next question, is, what is it like, and how does working with the Cooperative Education Team, support the needs of your organization? I've had conversations with Mark and with Dennis several times, and Kristen, we've talked, on an occasion. I know you've talked more with Jess, but let's talk about what is it like when when you need to work with our Cooperative Education Team here at Lakeland. Mark, can you start off?
Yeah. So I think everything's been super great with you guys. Just want to say that first off, and basically, secondly, it's great to talk to you guys to kind of get a feel for what other companies are doing, because you're engaged with everyone else. It's easy to bounce questions off of you guys and say, how is this working? Like, I know you guys even had like a COVID-19 presentation when everything first happened, and how do we get this whole remote thing working? And those are kind of things that I feel like I can ask you guys and get feedback on in the marketplace.
Awesome. And yeah, Kristen, is there anything else you wanted to elaborate on? You talked about working with Jess. Anything else that you'd like to share on that?
I can give an example. So we've had students in the past, maybe I think just one in particular, who thought of Johnsonville as an extension of Lakeland. And so they assumed it was okay to leave during, I don't know if it was winter or spring or summer break, without, giving much notice. And it's okay, right? That kind of thing happens when you have somebody that's just entering the workforce. So it was important to lay out expectations at the start. That's something that we changed after that happened. But we spoke with Jess right away. She actually came right to the organization, and we had a meeting with the team leads, the coaches, and Jess spoke with the student and helped to reinforce that this is a real job. You have to give proper notice. You are part of a team, so when you don't show up, you are letting down your team. And the problem was alleviated. It didn't happen again. So I think that's just an example of how we're able to help solve any minor issues that do come up by having that support right around the corner.
I think thank you so much for sharing that example, because I think it's a great point to make that many students, many of these students might be, like I said earlier, in their first professional gig, or they might be first generation college students. They might be coming from a background where they're not familiar with the ins and outs of a professional circumstance. And, we do our best to prepare them and to be available to them, to support them through those types of situations, and to support our partners as well. And Jess has made a point in the chat that we are in fact launching a more robust training program for supervisors starting next term. So I think that there's a great opportunity, to connect even further, with those people who work, day in and day out, those supervisors that are part of our co-op experience as well, the ones who are directly supervising our students, to help, to identify those types of situations like you just brought up, Kristen, and, to help guide through it so that we can all have a positive experience from it. So once again, thank you for bringing that up. Dennis, are you, unfortunately, it looks like your video might have gone out, but are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Tell me from your perspective, what's it like working with the co-op team?
Joss is very mean and difficult to work with. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's been wonderful, responsive. If it's to the earlier point, if it's understanding what other companies are doing or their approaches and building off of best practices, that I found very valuable. And then also in those individual one-off situations that require some creative thinking to find a co-op or create a co-op experience. So I've been very pleased and appreciate the support that we get.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, and it's great working with all of our partners. I would just like to point that out as well. I love reaching out to different people and having conversations and seeing how we can work with all of you as well. So, talking about challenges, and Kristen brought up a good point of sometimes there are challenges that can arise. What kinds of challenges have you experienced with, working with the co-op students? So, Kristen, you kind of answered this as well. Do you have any other examples that you'd like to share, or just anything that you'd like to talk about in addition about overcoming that type of challenge?
No, I think that about sums it up.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you. We'll go to. Oh, yes, Jess.
That I think Kristen knows this one too. I think of the student, because you guys work with a staffing agency different than Dennis or Mark, right? There's an on-site staffing agency. A lot of times our students naturally, because they hear Johnsonville, they'll Google search and then they'll go through the agency route and then not understand the differences and why that's an important factor in their employment structure and how we work with you guys. So we've also had to navigate a little bit of helping the student understand best practices and making those strong connections with you. Not that to no fault of anyone, except the student not knowing any better. So another example of how, because we know our students so well, we try and catch them, or if they make contact with you, we try and kind of coach them a different route if at all possible. So just another example I thought of, though.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Oh, thanks, Jess. Shall we go to? Yeah, we'll go to Dennis. Challenges that you've experienced.
Well, I mean, this speaks to the diligence of the Lakeland team, but organizations do use different sources for applicant tracking, and we use a government type of system called NeoGov. So it took a little bit of work to get that link created, but your team was very helpful in that endeavor. I think the other thing that we get occasionally is, and this is more in line with Kristen's example, but the attitude, or in some cases indifference, that's a coaching opportunity. I mean, if we're invested in that person's success, whether they will remain as an employee of our organization or not, we should be invested in their success as a person. And so those coaching opportunities, oftentimes they haven't had somebody be as candid as existing employees may be when it comes to attendance or work ethic or attitude or whatever else, entitlement or whatever. So those have been a couple of challenges, but from a systems side, your team is very helpful. And then from the student side, they've been, in my experience, very receptive to the coaching and appreciative that somebody is as candid as a coworker would be with them.
Excellent. Good to hear. It's always good to hear when we can find ways to work through, the students, and the students can find ways, to work through issues as well. That's really that's the goal, is to have, quality professional experiences and relationships. Mark, how about for Horizons, any challenges or anything that has had to be overcome?
I haven't had any challenges yet, so things are going good. But like I said, just started doing this, so haven't had a whole lot of experience with you guys yet. So,
well, I will not complain. So that's good to hear, and I'm sure that down the road things will, things might happen, and that's what the support system is there for. All right. Last question for our panel before we'll open it up, and I see that there are some questions and comments in the chat. We will open up and talk about those after the final question here. So thank you, looks like Craig, for sharing that. So tell me, panelists, why should companies consider hosting Lakeland University co-op students? And I'll open this up to whoever cares to share.
Yeah, I can answer. I've talked about this throughout, but I think the way I'd summarize is, Lakeland is bringing in diverse, talented individuals to our community. So along with that, you have personalized support in this specific program. So I think for both of those reasons, it's worth the effort. It's worth investing time to help talk with your leaders in your organization to help build up this program.
Thank you.
I can add on. This is Dennis. The talent pool in Sheboygan County is getting to be shallow, and we've had a difficulty in retaining those high school graduates or college graduates to stay within the county for employment. So selfishly, the co-op program does exactly that. It gives us that ability to grow our own talent, and then it's up to us as a community to retain that talent in the community. I think to Kristen's point, it provides a good opportunity for diversity in employment with either different ethnicities or attitudes or religious beliefs. And I think it just provides us with that cost-effective solution that's good for all three, the employer, the student, and the community.
Excellent. Mark, anything to share?
Basically just ditto what Dennis said. That was kind of where I was going to go, is that, you can find somebody that's younger, mold them the way you'd like them to fit into the organization. Say you have a specific need or something, you can mold them into that position. And then once they graduate, then you have someone that's already onboarded. They already know the system. They already know your company. And you don't need to hire someone to fill something, because basically they're just a plug and play at that point. And then, it's cost effective. Interns are pretty cheap compared to real software developers. So it's a nice way to get some of those side projects done. At least in my mind, it is. So that way, other people can focus on the bigger picture things, or maybe the harder things, or, what have you.
Sure. So some of the quote unquote try before you buy attitude of having a co-op be able to come in, a student could be able to come in and to test them, in all honesty, to give them the opportunity to prove their abilities and to gain some insight, and and they might be able to work out and be a great opportunity, a great employee of yours. Unfortunately, maybe Jess might be able to help me with this, but I do know, speaking to what Dennis was talking about in terms of the talent pool, I know that a large percentage of students that come to Lakeland, and we do recruit nationally, do stay in the Sheboygan area. Unfortunately, I cannot remember the number specifically of what percentage stay, but I do know that it's that a large percentage of the employees, or excuse me, of the students, who come to Lakeland do end up staying within this region. And I think that that really does speak to not only the students, but it speaks to the employers, providing quality opportunities for those students to, get into roles that they're interested in and get into the, companies that, are going to provide them with good benefits and good experiences. So, like you said, it's a trifecta. You got to have a good school, good student, good community, good employer. You got to have really the whole thing coming together, to make a co-op program work well. So, really appreciate that. All right. Well, thank you. That actually concludes the questions that I have prepared for our panel. But I do see that we have a couple comments that have come in. I'm seeing first one talking about unpaid interns and how unpaid internships kind of where they fall into the spectrum of going into paid internships and then into the cooperative experience that way, as well as talking about Lakeland as part of the College Here and Now program, how incoming juniors as an 18-year-old graduate from LTC can get involved in the co-op program. Now, I believe that, I'll go to Kristen. Kristen, do you know, I'm sure you do, if you're involved or Johnsonville is involved in some of these other opportunities and these other programs, yes, for incoming students, like you said, internships or high school co-ops, yes?
Correct.
Okay. So what's tell me how do you think that fits into the scheme? Like if you had a student coming in as a high school, as a incoming high school co-op student, do you think that would flow into being a college or a Lakeland type co-op position, or are those kind of more on the same scale, like equal with each other, or does it seem like it's more of a pathway that they would follow? What do you think?
Absolutely, when that happens.
Yeah.
I think a high school experience is a great opportunity to dip your toes in and understand what the environment is like. Start to build some relationships. See if it's the type of work that you enjoy. If it's something you want to pursue, it's just a great time to take on a short experience. The high school experiences are often 2.5 months, maybe very part-time because they're still in school. But we love when that happens, when a student finds a great team that they're working on at Johnsonville, they enjoy the work, and so that helps them to make a decision when they do choose, secondary education, and they're able to continue their, to build relationships with Johnsonville through a co-op.
Excellent. Oh, and it looks like Trig has his hand raised. Oh, and Jess as well. So, Trig, would you like to share your thought, and then Jess?
Yeah, let me elaborate on the question. As many of you know, the LTC has an arrangement with the high schools where they provide the opportunity for a high school student to graduate with a degree from LTC at the same time they graduate from high school. This means that they have their 2-year associate degree by the time they've graduated from high school, meaning that they are now in somewhat of a position, ideally, to transfer or actually go to Lakeland and start, I think, as a junior at Lakeland at the age of 18 years old. So the question I had is that, can a junior at the age of 18 get involved in the co-op program right off the bat so that they can begin earning money toward their tuition at Lakeland? And the answer I'm getting is yes.
Yeah, no, I can chime in on that one. So essentially, And Trig, here's what I would imagine, right? So a student obviously going through the recruitment process and working with our admissions team, they would alert us to an incoming, junior that we would need to help them kind of jumpstart, if you will, their very first semester. So typically as a freshman, right, they get a semester to kind of adjust and develop relationships on campus. We get to know them, if you will, over a period of time, and then they start to go into their placements. Like those transfer students, those juniors standing as a first-year student, if you will, at Lakeland, essentially we have to do a jump start for them, where we get them into those professional level roles right away, because they already have, those college credits, so they only have 2 years with us. So I've worked with, I can think of, the other transfer students from other colleges that are ready to go when they arrive to us. We don't need to wait to get to know them or figure things out. So I know that's how Mark, in fact, got one of his students that he was working with. He was a transfer, not because we had to wait to get to know him and kind of work out the details. We could do it right away. So that's the beauty of a high school student who's completed their associate's degree. They only need 2 years additional, education, but they can actually be working still pretty significantly to finish up their degree with us and graduate. So they can go into those full-time roles at the age of 20, ideally. So for sure.
Yeah, Mark, would you like to elaborate a little bit on that situation? I think that would be interesting to hear about.
Yeah, so he was just a transfer student from another college, and just started working with us day one on this professional co-op versus more of a I guess I can't think of a good term for it, but just kind of covered it. But basically, he wasn't a Lakeland student before until just this year.
And I think too, Mark, the experience he had with you probably even solidified his enrollment with us, right? It was more of like, I'm still, not everything is worked out. I've got some classes I think I can take. And then because of the experience with you, we were able to actually help him adjust his fall schedule to be like, let's reduce your credits from an academic standpoint, or in class time, and then we actually added credit because of the work he was doing with you. And when we figured it all out for him, because it's a big puzzle piece, I like to think of it as every student is a different puzzle, he was actually able to work for you even more and provide more availability to you because of that puzzle piece, right? So good question though, Trig. I think certainly we're going to continue because of our partnership with Sheboygan Area School District and Inspire. We're going to continue to get more and more students who are coming into us with those set of skills.
So Jess, I have another question related to internships versus co-op experience. A freshman at Lakeland, typically do they jump right into a co-op experience, or sometimes do they go the unpaid internship route prior? Great
question, Trig. And I can anticipate where I think what you're trying to figure out here. So what I'm noticing, and I think COVID only heightened it as well, is we've got more and more students who are wanting experiences their very first semester or within their first 2 semesters. So traditionally, what we want them to be doing is they take this foundational course in their very first term, and most of them are working on campus because they got to get their bearings figured out. They got to figure out who they are as a student and who they're connecting with, et cetera. And then a lot of times, because of that particular course, at least I've seen it for myself in the classroom this last fall, we've got more and more freshmen and their light bulbs are turning on faster. Oh, I didn't know I could do these types of things. I didn't know I had the skill set to go into these entry-level roles. I didn't know that employers wanted to hire me as a freshman. So some students who are kind of probably, again, just kind of fast starting or kind of moving more quickly into what I anticipate to be more of a laddering of a career experience, which is ideal in my opinion. But we also have a group of students who I think are still a little uncertain, right? So doing a project, an internship that you might have described, probably gives them a little bit more confidence to say, well, I can try it out with one of our contact or this particular, graphic program that someone needed help with, this one-time project or whatever, gives them a little bit more confidence so that they can go into more significant paid experiences and co-op experiences. Always the downside, though, as I'm sure you can imagine, is anytime there's an unpaid experience, if they're not earning academic credit, it can be very challenging on the student, just because they still have to work, right? They still need to be making money. They don't get to take a pause on other employment. So Ideal situation is for them to always ensure that they can earn credit and make sure that it fits in to their 4-year academic program. But then it gives them a little bit more confidence to move into those positions for longer. So not a detriment, but I do see some students very much challenged and saying, I just can't afford to do it. And that happens a lot too. So.
Yes, thank you, Jess.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everyone. We've got a couple minutes left here of our time. So does anyone else, if anyone else has any questions?
One thing, Chris, that I just want to mention is we've got some really awesome partners, as I'm sure everyone can attest to, in talking with our 3 panelists today. Because I'm not an employer, I know that internally organizations oftentimes have adjustment struggles, issues, whatever. And so really, I look to the employers who are doing it well. So if you're a new employer with us and you really want to hear from the perspective of an employer, I'm happy to help make those connections and kind of give you a mentor buddy, if you will, from the employment side of things, and what maybe differences, changes, or adjustments do we need to make for a particular role, or how we post it, or when we do recruitment or whatever. But certainly I want to make sure that our new employers, if you need to speak with another employer, big, small, well-refined, starting out, whatever, we certainly have a robust amount of employers who are willing to help us kind of coach our newbies along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great point. I mean, on our panel today, had people at many different, people at different levels. We've got, large companies, small companies, IT, human resources. We've got all different kinds, and we partner with all different kinds of companies. So we are more than happy to build connections. We build connections between the university, but yeah, absolutely. If we can help with if you have any questions about, like Jess said, posting jobs or what kinds of roles students might be able to fill, by all means, I am more than happy. We are more than happy to answer questions for our partners and for business organizations out there. We also have some upcoming events that we would be more than happy to talk to you about. We have our upcoming spring fair on January 15th for students that are looking for placements at the beginning of the next semester, kind of get them an idea. They're just looking for something. We're going to have our major fair coming up at the beginning in early March for students looking for those summer positions, looking into the future for the beginning of the next school year as well. And then we're going to be also hosting a diversity fair which is going to be partnered with some of our organizations on campus, to talk about those racial and ethnic, and different, all different types of students, like Kristen was talking about, working on that diversity of the student workforce and of the workforce in general. So we have a lot of great.
We just got confirmation that Lakeshore Technical College and UW Green Bay Sheboygan campus will be partnering with us on that effort as well. We just really have to start solidifying a date. So knowing that our student population is significant in our first applicants, which many of our panelists talked about, we want to be able to better support them, and doing a focused fair for that population in particular is, I think, going to be proved much more successful for us and for our employment community. So look forward to those. And just to mention too, Chris, right, is all of those events are free. We don't charge our employers for these events, especially in a COVID world. There's no expense on our part aside from setting it up. So if we can ever help an employer connect with a student, by all means, that's what we're here to do.
For sure. Oh, thank you for that. That's awesome to hear that we're partnering with LTC and with UW Green Bay's Sheboygan campus. I think that just makes it all the more valuable to help people to find those connections. So thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Dennis, all of you. And thank you for all of our participants and to all of our listeners today, and thank you, Jess, as well. I really appreciate all of your support and helping us with this. I will be taking this video. I'll be sharing it with everyone, and we're going to get this posted for people who may not have been able to attend. And then we can also, would be more than happy to share contact information from there as well. My contact information is on the screen right now. If you have any questions post panel, by all means, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help you any way that I can. So thank you again, everyone, for participating. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye now.